Hey all, Noons here. Welcome back to Noons Airborne RC. And if it's your first time here, smash that like and subscribe button so you can get notified for future content. And if you're a longtime viewer and subscriber, welcome back, y'all. Well, I went ahead and I said I was going to do a thing, and it looks like all those things showed up. So we're going to go ahead and dive into what I'm going to be doing next, right after we roll this intro.
Get some!
And we're back. Well, if you guys have been paying attention in the chats or any of the comments or anything, then you kind of got caught wind, let's just say, of what I'm going to be doing. But here's the official opener video to our build series. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do a conversion, a turbine conversion on a standard foamy plane. For our cases here, we're going to use the Avanti S, and we're going to go ahead and dive into each individual piece. Notice I left things in the wrapper so I can go ahead and let you guys know where I got it. So if you're interested in doing something like this, you go ahead and pick up the pieces. So we're going to go ahead and do it piece by piece. So let's go ahead and further out. Let's get to it. All right. Airframe. First things first. Go ahead and choose yourself a good airframe. I found quite a few which would be working for the conversion that I would be doing. But I went ahead and I went with the Avanti because for me, I have the same version of Avanti, the red one in 6S, and that thing's a tried and true platform. Rock solid, no bad tendencies, and what better jet to go ahead and do a conversion than something that it is known good. Other things you could do for a conversion would be a Freewing MiG-21 fish bed, the Gripen, the T45 as well as a good one. But like I said, we went with the Avanti. Now, when you go ahead and you do these conversions, everybody, you don't have to buy a complete EDF. This right here is the ARF Plus, because it comes with the servos, the gear, everything, just minus the ESC and minus the fan. If you need an ESC and a fan for another plane, by all means, go ahead and get a complete one. But we went ahead and picked that up just as an ARF Plus, because that's all we need. Went ahead and picked this up from Motion RC. One other thing you will have to pick up from Motion RC is they put it inside the box. I'm not going to be doing an unboxing of the jet. I do have an unboxing of the red one on my channel already. But the things that you will need, and they put them in here, is you will need to get better retracts. The reason why I say you need better retracts is you're going to be putting 65mm JP brakes, right? By rules and regulations, turbines need to have brakes. So 65mm is the ones you want to use on this. Now with that added weight, when you're flying and you got that airspeed, they're going to go ahead and stall out. They won't be able to come back up. I've seen people fly inverted and snap them down, but I'm not going to go ahead and do that. So what I did is, the same time I ordered the jet, I went in and ordered the retracts for the T33. Now, they are a little bit bigger. The retracts that come with this, they have a stall torque of, I believe it's like 5. I believe it's 5 kilograms or something like that, which, you know, sounds like a lot, but it's not when you get the airspeed and all that stuff. These ones right here are double. These will go ahead and lift up the brakes. They will not stall out because the T33 come with bigger retracts and struts, just all in general. So these are the ones that you want to get, and their item number E841, and they're the retracts 5.1mm type C's, all right? Now, the strut pin that comes with the Avanti is a 4mm. So for you to go ahead and get this to work, as you'll see in the later videos, we're going to use a 5mm outside diameter, 4mm inside diameter brass tubing as a sleeve. So these are the first things you want to go ahead and pick if you're going to do this conversion. You're going to need the T33 Type C 5.1mm retracts, and you're going to go ahead and need the Avanti. So now let's go ahead and move on to the next part. All right, next part is the electronic components you'll need to do this conversion. Now mind you, I did get an ARF Plus, so I already have the control board, the servos, the lights, the struts, basically the retracts, and I already ordered the retracts. So this is on top of what you'll need to go ahead and get. And I'll let you know where I went ahead and I got it from. So for me, you will need a BEC of some sort because you're not going to have the BEC off of the ESC to power the servos. So you will need to get that going. You could use a voltage regulator. I'm going to go ahead and use a BEC so I can get constant clean power. I went ahead and I got the 10 amp Castle BEC. There are cheaper out there, but these are tried and tested. I use them in my scale helicopters, and I will stand by them 100%. Next is a receiver. Now, I went ahead and I had this receiver lying around, but I got it from the same company as I got the BEC. I went ahead and I picked these up off of Ready-Made RC, rmrc.com. They're more of UAVs, but they got a lot of plane stuff, a lot of Spectrum and E-Flight stuff, and they have it in stock, and I took advantage of some points that I had. I think I got this thing like 3 months ago. Now, this is the AR8020T. The reason why I went with the 8020T and not the one with the AS3X gyro is you should know, and if you don't know, you can't use the AS3X safes in a turbine. They will pitch up to a frequency and they will make it spaz out and you will crash. With the Avanti, you don't need a gyro, so don't even worry about that. So Ready-Made RC is where I went ahead and I got these. Next is what we got is I have a brake controller and gyro, and I have my JP brakes. Now I want to go ahead and let y'all know where I picked these up. Brick City RC. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description down the bottom where I got all this stuff. Brick City RC, let me tell you something. Dennis is amazing. He is basically probably the biggest JP distributor that I know of. He is on the East Coast. Anything JP that I need, wheels, brakes, for the jet mock, the front wheel, the brakes, all went through him. This right here, I went through him. Shipping is very easy. I went ahead and picked these up in 2 different shipments. It was like $4 shipping, and it got here in 4 days. So remember, Brick City RC, I'll have that down in the description. So for the wheel gyro, I like to use a front wheel gyro and brake. And Assan, I've been using them in the past, and this is their new AG63 Pro Edition right here. Now this one's great because it doesn't have all the wires. This also has differential braking, which means compared to the original, you can actually decrease the percentage and decrease the wheel locking pressure. And with something being this light, you really need that, because if you use the original one or something that you cannot adjust the brake pressure, it's just going to lock up and you're going to go ahead and damage your tires. Next is our 65mm JP brakes, also picked up at Brick City RC. And this right here, this is a novelty. You can use a standard JP controller, what this comes with. I don't like those because you cannot adjust the braking. I don't care what they say. So I went ahead and I picked this up, and I like a nose wheel gyro, so it tracks down the runway straight. I don't have to do that. It's one less thing I got to worry about. So this is basically what you'll need to go ahead and convert the turbine. Obviously, you'll need this to fly. This is a novelty. This you will definitely need is the brakes. So let's go ahead and move on over to the fuel system, and we'll be right back. All right, fuel system and exhaust. So I'm going to go ahead and do this airborne style. Paul Applebottom's got great videos out there. I'm not going to carve up my jet. I don't see there a reason to be, and I know I can get a tank right over that CG without carving it up the way he does. Nothing against him, but you're going to go ahead and see my way, which to me is going to be a lot easier. So the first thing we'll need for the fuel system is a tank. I went ahead and I picked this up from Top Hobby US on eBay. It is a 30-ounce tank, an 800cc tank, and this will slip in, and you'll see in the videos, perfect. This is 30 ounces, and The engine that I'm going to be running uses about 150 grams of fuel, 150 cc's a minute. That's usually tested at wide open throttle. I can guarantee you I will get 6 to 7 minutes out of this tank of the engine that I'm going to be flying. I picked up this tank. It was on eBay. I believe it was $8.96, and it comes with all the stuff right here that you will need to put this tank together. I do not have a UAT. I will not be running a UAT in this. I believe that it's going to be so close and almost so perfect that I won't need the UAT. The only way I will run a UAT in this is if I need something to add some more nose weight for the turbine that I'm going to be putting on the back, but I think I'll be able to get away with that. Next thing I picked up is, you see these a lot on cars. Hopefully y'all can see that right there. It is a winged clunk. Like I said, it was used for RC cars. I picked this up from DDM Racing, and they're out there in Drager, Utah. I picked this up, it was $7. I do have the winglets to soak up the fuel. Is the reason why I believe I'll be able to get away with the UAT. Next but not least is we have our thrust tube. Now, I went ahead and I picked up 2 thrust tubes. The first thrust tube that I got was this one, and this is from Paul Applebaum. This is his thrust tube right here, made specifically for the Avanti. The other one that I went ahead and I picked up was from RC Castle. It is a lot cheaper. They make one, it's JP Hobby. It's less than half the price what I paid for this one, and it's built just as well. Paul Applebaum, he's got some carbon up here. The other one is a stainless housing, but both of them will work, but this is the one we're going to be using in our conversion. 4mm and 6mm tubing is another thing that you will go ahead and need for the build. You will also need some type of 6mm to 4mm reducer, because it'll be coming 6mm from your fuel tank and 4mm into your fuel pump. I'll go ahead and I'll plug in the picture of the 2 that I like to use. And as you can see in that picture, you have a barbed one and a Festa one. For this particular build, we're going to be using the Festa one instead of the barbed. Barb works a lot better if you're using some kind of Tygon hosing. These work a lot better if you're using with the clear tubing for turbines. So next part we're going to go ahead and do is our engine and our fuel tank. But right before that, I want to go ahead and put in this disclaimer right here. So you find yourself asking, if I back up Freewing and Bad Boys RC so much, why would I think about going outside the realm with the turbine? Well, it's simple. They don't make the size. I wanted a 45. They used to make one. I don't think they're ever going to be making one from what I hear. So if I wanted a 45 and I wanted to go ahead and do these little conversions, I had 2 choices. A Zykoy or King Tech. I went with King Tech because they have servicing here in Los Angeles, California, versus sending the Zykoy overseas. Now, something you guys need to know the differences between the Zykoy and the King Tech. The Zykoy can run off of diesel, kerosene, and Jet A. The King Tech can only run off of kerosene and Jet A, cannot run off of diesel. So if that's something that you have to have, then now you know. The Zykoy can run off of LiPos. The King Tech, you have to use their life batteries at 9.9 volts. The Zykoy is a little bit lighter, a few ounces, than the King Tech. The Zykoy costs a little more than the King Tech by about $200. But that's my full disclaimer. I still back up Bad Boys RC and Freewing. Freewing, not Bad Boys, but Freewing. If you're hearing me, bring the 45 back. You will rule the market. Now for the rest of the stuff you're going to need to complete this build, and as you've seen in that disclaimer, you now know what we're going to go ahead and be using, or have a pretty good idea. But first of all, let's go ahead and talk about a fuel tank. The fuel tank that I went ahead and I picked up was a 5-gallon kerosene. I went ahead and I picked this up at the local Home Depot. It was $16.99. I also went ahead on Amazon and I picked up a fuel cap for the same system that I'm going ahead and be using. This is the spill-proof system, so I got one for the spill-proof cap. I also went ahead and I got the Qwik fueler system, and that basically comes with the part that you'd go ahead and use and the fuel. As far as a pump, I use the cheap $20 streamer pump used for smoke oil and diesel. Also works for kerosene. Basically, I went ahead and I fixed it right here with some double stick tape, and I run it. This is very similar to the design. I also have a filter here. This is very similar in design as the one I use for my big jets. And I went ahead and I built this fuel can right here for $38 and some change. So you go figure. I picked this up for $9. I picked up the 17, the cap, and the fuel fittings right here. Pretty good deal in my book. If you're looking at building a fuel can, this is the way to go ahead and do it. Next, we're going to go ahead and need oil. I have a whole bunch of oil over here from my Freewing turbines. But with this turbine, they recommend their own oil. And I know I could use it in that one, but I'm kind of a nitpicker there. If they recommend a certain oil for this engine, I'm going to use that. If Freewing recommends a certain oil for their engine, I'm going to go ahead and use that. So I went ahead and I picked this up from King Tech. It was $17 for the quart. I could have ordered gallons, but this little thing, it's going to sip fuel. I went ahead and I already mixed fuel in there, and this right here is going to last me a few months. So you don't really need that much of this unless you're going to be flying like almost every day. It was $17 for a quart right here, and with the shipping, it was only, I think, about $10 extra. With this system right here, you cannot use a LiPo to run it. The ESU and the electronics get power from your receiver, but to actually power the pump, the turbine, and everything else in a normal system, and I mean normal by Freewing, by my traditional lines of what I like to use, you can use a 3S LiPo. They recommend a 3S Life battery. A 3S LiPo is too much voltage. That's one complaint about these engines is when you put a fully charged Life battery in there, it doesn't want to start up because it has too much. So a lot of people will run the starter for about a good 5-10 seconds on a fresh battery to bring that voltage down a little bit. So I went ahead and I picked up their Life battery right here. This is pricey, everybody. When you go with these engines and you got to buy these special batteries, these Life batteries right here, they're not cheap. It's $79 for this thing. One thing I do like, though, is it comes with these longer leads. With the LiPo, I wouldn't leave a LiPo in the model. I would leave a Life battery. And if I had to bury this somewhere, it's nice to have these long leads so I can charge it. Also, you don't have to sit there and make your own leads. You got them right here, depending on where you're placing the battery. Majority of the times, you're going to be using this for ballast. Now, for the actual engine. And the first time I opened this up, I laughed at it. It was so small. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the camera so we can get a nice close up of what it looks like. And then we'll go ahead and close this video out. All right. So let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. So the first thing you have here is you have your manual. This is the 2022 model. This was out of stock for a while because the first run of Generation 4s had some issues. And I waited almost 3 months to get this till they rectified all the problems back at the factory. So I got one of those first runs of all the issues being fixed. This manual right here is a very plain Jane manual. It addresses all the features that you can do and you should not touch. And it gives you the schematics for all the engines. These engines right here, you're supposed to get them and run them without having to change a thing. I know for a fact the Freewing turbines work that way. They start up every time. You can leave them sitting for a year and they start right up. We're going to see how this thing reacts. And there it is, everybody. So
First thing we're going to go ahead and pull out, it's our ground service unit. This thing is touch screen. I don't really like that because I like to take these things out and put them in my back pocket, which we'll see how this thing lasts. The Freewing has buttons, and I like that. It's more sturdy. We'll see how this thing holds up with me out at the field. Next, we have our pump. The pump is a KP200BL. This is a brushless pump. This pump is significantly bigger than the pumps that I have on my Freewing 60 and 80. But that's a good thing because I know we're going to need nose weight in the plane. Next, they went ahead and gave us a bag of goodies. Looks like we got some 4mm line. We have a fuel filter that comes with the model. It gave us a 90-degree shutoff valve, and it gave us all the cabling that we'll need in the bag right here to go ahead and complete the assembly. Next, we have our ECU. And this is the brains of the thing right here. And you can see we have our PWM connections. And we have, it looks like an XT30 female. I don't know what connector that would be. And I know these little data cables right here fairly well. So it looks like it's machined aluminum. And as you can see, pump goes in here, power goes in here, and turbine data goes over there. Last but not least in the box is the actual turbine. And no, this is not movie magic. This is exactly how big this thing is. It is ridiculously small. I laughed when I got it. I could not believe on how small this thing was. This is the first time I'm breaking it out of the plastic wrapper right here. I'm doing it on camera. And that's how big it is, everybody. This is the KingTech K45 Generation 4, made in Taiwan. One thing about this is it is about 1 pound installed. Your fuel hose will go in here and your data cable goes in here. That's all you'll need to go ahead and run this turbine. One thing I will tell you about this is it has a brushless starter motor now for the turbine. This will only run on kerosene and Jet A. It will not run on diesel. So if that's a deal breaker, I would go with the K45. The reason why I went with this is even though the servicing isn't in Arizona, it is in LA, it's still in the United States, where the Zykoy, I would have to be basically shipping that off overseas to go ahead and get service. But this is right here is what we're going to go ahead and put in to power this jet. So everybody, that's the engine I went ahead and used. Like I said time and time before, I stand behind Freewing and their product and Bad Boys RC. I've been using those turbines going on for over a year now without any hiccups or issues. This will be a new learning curve for me, and now I got something to base it off of. Hopefully this turbine goes ahead and lasts me for some time. Some people said the 45 was a little bit too large, but this isn't going to be my only project, everybody. I could have gotten away with probably the K30 in it, but with this 45, I can go ahead and use it in much bigger projects like 90mm size or even a little larger. So this right here was the reveal video and basically the items list of everything you're going to need to go ahead and do the conversion. Stay tuned for our first part where we go ahead and we install the new Retracts and the brakes. So stay tuned. Noon's out.
Get some!